Hello, everybody. Welcome back
Hello.
to the History Made Awesome podcast. This is episode 5. We are back at it with Ben, who is
Hello
ready to
again.
do it and get after it. It's currently 10/4/2017. It's a little bit late of a podcast for us because we had a lot of things going on down during the weekend. So a Wednesday night podcast, hopefully to come out on Friday. But a podcast nonetheless for the week. Ben, how are you doing so far?
I'm doing okay. Ups and downs, ups and downs.
Ups and downs. Enjoying the first vestiges of school.
Yes. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. Like I said, there's good things. There's a few things I'm worried about. There's a couple disappointing things. That's all.
That's okay. Just wait till midterms and all that stuff will go out the window and you'll just be stressed for the tests. But yeah, so myself, I am doing well. I'm enjoying the first weeks of school and enjoying my research, and that's something I guess we'll get into a little bit later. But I think we'll start off, and I think everyone likes that we talk about the news, and I think we'll just jump right in. So the first thing, I guess the biggest thing that happened on Monday was the shooting of 50 people in Las Vegas. I think it was 200 people who were injured. I'm not sure. Was it 200 or 500? I forget what the number was.
500.
It was 500. Okay, so about 50. I think it was 58 people who are dead now. I think
59.
59.
No,
Oh,
59.
59. And with 500 dead, and basically what happened is that for all you who don't know, shooter, Paddock, I think that was his last name. He was like about 6 years
Yeah,
old.
that sounds
Right. Basically, he was on the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Hotel and used a high-powered assault rifle to then shoot at a crowd of people who were enjoying uh, it was a music concert that was a country
Yeah, it
music
was a
festival.
country music festival. Yeah, he had 10 guns up in his room, and I think last I heard, they were still trying to figure out which ones he actually used.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
but yeah,
but yeah,
he committed suicide before police officers rushed to his room. Um, So
yeah.
that was something I was talking to Ben about this. This is something that I learned Sunday night. It was like at 10 o'clock. And at that time, it was only 2 people dead and about like 20 people injured or something like that. Interesting enough, like for myself, knowing the location and kind of seeing where what occurred and how it happened, I was thinking to myself that number is going to go up extensively high. And definitely, I woke up in the morning. It was 50 people dead and about 200 injured, and that never then increased again. So it was a very tragic thing to happen, and there's a lot of talking points. But Ben, what was your kind of first reactions to it? Um,
So when I first heard about it, I was cooking food. I was in my third hour of 4 hours of cooking.
mhm,
And my mom just kind of came in and she's like, "Hey, there's a shooting going on right now." I
mhm,
went, "Oh." Um, I think it was 11:30 at
mhm,
night. So I was just like, "Oh my God." I looked it up, and there was a live feed of people discussing it and of like what's going on. Is everyone okay? All that kind of stuff. I, I, I couldn't deal with it at the
mhm,
time. I was like, I need to sleep. I
mhm.
can't, I can't be up all night doing this.
Yeah.
I'll just have to see how it is in the morning.
No, yeah, but it definitely hit me. I was like,
Luckily I don't,
yeah,
know anyone
yeah, definitely.
who lives there.
Hmm. But yeah, like definitely for me, because I
Yeah,
woke
no,
up
it was definitely. I mean, God, it's terrible. I was. Go
speechless.
ahead.
No, I was gonna say like I definitely woke up in the morning. I was definitely like hit me like a ton of bricks. Like wow, it was worse than I thought it was gonna be. Um, but yeah, I don't know with these types of shootings, I can see why people are like the fifth Second Amendment. So no, but definitely a lot of people talk about the Second Amendment, and that's one of the reasons why we should have these high-powered rifles. And before we get into that, and also there's a lot of people who keep saying, after tragedies, we definitely shouldn't talk about politics, all those things. Um, but I don't know. It's getting to a point where it's occurred way too many times. And I was reading an article on the Telegraph, I think it was, and basically they had shown
Mm.
how it was within the article. They talked about how, of course, the the thing in Las Vegas was happening, but also they showed how about 100 miles, like in somewhere in the south, I think. I forget where the place was, but basically,
Mm-hmm.
like another mass shooting had occurred there, like on the same day, pretty much. I think it was 5 people dead, like 10 injured. I think I'll probably put up in the YouTube description, but it kind of showed how like these things are not like a once in a time like phenomenon, but they're actively occurring all over the United States. But of course, they're not, these large mass shootings that we saw in
Well, yeah,
Vegas.
this is the worst mass shooting ever
Yeah,
in our country.
exactly. And I don't know, it's becoming a point where it's just like, well, what's first of all the Second Amendment? So the Second Amendment, grants everyone the rights to bear arms, and the main reason was for its creation was to basically like if the government that you have employed and you do not like it, you pretty much have the opportunity to overthrow it, and so you have the right to bear arms to then take out a rebellion against the government to basically take it out. That's basically what the Second Amendment was all about. But I don't know, it's coming to a point where it's more like we're hurting ourselves in a sense, and we're not actually I don't even think that little thing will even come into like play, in my opinion. What's your take on that?
I mean, it's there's so much lobbying from
Yes.
NRA. They're a multi-billion-dollar company
Mhm.
or organization, whatever they want to call themselves.
Yeah.
And I mean, they make a lot of money off of being able to sell guns.
Mhm.
So they don't want it to be illegal.
Exactly.
It's the same, and then they have so much propaganda, especially in the South.
Mhm.
Um, and not just that. I mean, it's also just very cultural there. Hell, I have a grandfather that lives in Texas, and one day, I just suddenly got a card in the mail. It's like, hey, you're a member of the NRA now, and I went, what? I didn't sign up.
Hmm.
Turns out he signed me up. It cost like $100 something. He just
Wow.
signed me up for no reason.
Wow.
I still don't know why he did it. It
Yeah.
doesn't give you any benefits. Not that I would use. Yeah, they lobby so hard, and it's so culturally ingrained in the South that the combination of those two things means that Republican. I mean, Senator. I guess everyone. I guess it kind of extends. Well, I guess everyone except for the judicial branch. It extends to every Republican politician that hey, if I let these people do what they want, then I get paid and I get reelected.
Mhm.
So they have absolutely no incentive to do anything about it.
Mhm.
And consequently, every single time this thing happens, they're like, let's have a moment of silence. Let's send our thoughts and prayers. Let's forget it ever happened.
Exactly. I
And
yeah.
that's why the Democrats are freaking out more now. They're like, hey, no, 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 fuck your moment of silence. The last 10 times you did this,
Mhm.
you moved on right after.
Yeah.
Like, we're all for respecting the dead, but you aren't.
Mhm.
So we need to be more aggressive about this.
And I'm not saying that banning automatic assault rifles it's going to change the problem. But it's one step to like make it a lot better, make it a lot harder for these types of things to occur. Um, and it was one of those things. It's just like it's to the point where it's just like let's try like banning these assault rifles or like these types of weapons, and let's see the trends of what occurs. You know, that would be really
Hmm.
interesting to see. Um, I'm trying to think because I know in California we have some of the strictest gun laws on the
Hmm.
books. I'm trying to, well, probably for San Bernardino. I'm trying to think what else. It's kind of all over the country, so it kind of shows that, especially San Bernardino, like these types of reforms will not change, will not end these types of things occurring, but it will definitely make it a lot harder for them to occur.
Well,
It's
yeah, I
like
mean that's the thing. I hear that argument a lot where it's like, oh, well, if we ban all the weapons, then only the bad people will have them.
yeah,
It's like, okay, but right now they can literally walk into a shop and pay a
yeah,
minimal amount of money for these things. If
yeah,
they're illegal, guess what? It becomes way more expensive, far
yeah.
more difficult. You can't have an insane person
Mhm.
just go and buy one and then a month later decide to kill everyone. It would take a lot more time, a lot more thought, a lot more preparation.
Mhm.
It'd be a lot harder.
Mhm. Yeah, I think definitely that's a one step that everyone can try, and also definitely. background checks and all those things. Just make it harder for these types of people to buy these weapons.
Yeah, and that's
It's
the thing. The Republicans keep removing things like background checks, and then they say like, "Oh yeah, yeah, we should, if they have mental issue, we should definitely, not give it to them." And then they remove the laws that prevent people from doing that.
hmm
It's insane. They're absolutely insane.
And I think even before this shooting, I think they're in the Congress. I think they're even trying to limit like the amount of reforms that be put towards this type of gun reform. Like they're making it a
Yeah.
lot easier to own weapons, so you kind of show where it was going. I don't know. It's just getting to a point where it's just like I feel like every week there's an opportunity that it can happen. Like that's not normal. Like shit.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I'm in Iraq or in Afghanistan where it's just like you're gonna get, pretty much blown up by an IED or like a car bomb. I mean, it's not like that, but it's getting to the point where it can happen at any moment, which is ridiculous. Like we live like probably one of the most wealthiest countries in the world. Probably, well, not the most developed, but like in terms of GDP, we're the most richest country in the world, and we have to go through these problems, which is absolutely ridiculous. And if
Hmm.
we look at like, let's just take a look at like Germany or like in Europe, like they have some. I know in England, for example, they have extremely super strict gun laws. It's like you can't even open a gun there. You have to have like a special permit that only like a few people can actually get. And
Mm.
like I don't remember when the last time I saw on the news that they had a mass shooting. I've seen mass stabbings, I've seen mass cars, but that's super rare. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's even hard. It's so hard. Like it's so hard to kill someone with a knife. Like that many people with a knife. And I think it was in. I don't know if it was in the United Kingdom or not. I know in Australia it happened like in the late '90s. And
Hmm.
one of the things they did was actually they pretty much the government. It was pretty much you couldn't have an assault rifle anymore. I think you could have a pistol. But what the government actually did is they actually bought everyone's guns. So like everyone turned their guns in and they got compensated for it. And then people have that problem where it's just like, well, then that's the government pretty much taking our ability to then revolt against them, essentially, right? That's because, especially if you look at,
Yeah. That
yeah,
argument's always really flimsy.
yeah, and even on that
I mean,
point,
good luck,
yeah,
good luck taking on literally the largest military in the world with your handgun.
and then on that
Have
note,
fun.
and on that note, I mean, well, two things. If you really want to start a revolt, it's easy. Just what's it called? Get it off the black market in Mexico. Like, smuggle it in. You're good to go. And people are already doing that already. So you'll find connections. And another thing on that, when it comes to like democracies, I mean, I know that like if you look at Greece, I know democracies have the ability to go from like super democratic to like what's it called to becoming like a dictatorship in a sense, like it happened in
Hmm.
Greece. But another interesting thing is if you look at like Nazi Germany, if you look at Napoleonic France, you notice that not a lot of those things occur like it's how like the government would then take power, like kill the people and then take power. Interesting enough, what we see is that a lot of people actually vote in those types of leaders. If you look at Nazi Germany, like he got voted in democratically, right? If you look at, I know Napoleon's a little bit different. He didn't get vote in democratically, but for him, he put out a what's it called, a plebiscite. We basically said, okay, give me a poll, like if you guys want me in power or not, or we want me to be emperor or not. And with Napoleon, for example, I know that there was a little bit of like rigging, but
Mm.
it was not like super uber. Like essentially, the people of France actually, like a majority of them actually voted in Napoleon into power. They skewed the numbers like a little bit, but it was a big enough majority. It was like, okay, no amount of rigging would be able to do this. So you couldn't forge 3 million votes essentially for to get Napoleon to power. So it's kind of
Yeah.
and it's kind of like that's the only thing where it kind of stops against it. But and well then again, like a good way to resist against a government is to have weapons. I mean, if you look at I know Napoleonic France a lot more, or the Napoleonic Wars, but I know like in the Vendée, which is basically a revolt that occurred in 1793 to like 94, or I think it started late 1792 when all the way to 1794. In the Vendée, for example, was basically it was like Catholics and people who were pro like nobility against the republic essentially.
Hmm.
They revolted against the I forget the first government, basically Robespierre and all those people. Like for them, their revolt when was going on pretty well, but the thing that stopped them was because they didn't have the weapons necessary to fight against the French, and they were gonna try to go to the coast to go get weapons for the British, but that didn't help them at all. In the Peninsular War, which is I'm working on right now, they were able to continue their revolt because they got weapons from the British, who's supplying them. So I guess it is a good way to kind of revolt against the man or the government. But in the end, the dictator is always going to come in power because we as the people vote him into power, and we're going to actually support them you know, in a popular way essentially. And
Yeah.
that's the only problem I see with that. And even then, with that, we're doing more. It's almost like that thing was put into place to help us in the end, but in the end, it's killing more than what would actually help us in a sense. I feel it's done more harm than actual good.
Yeah, there's an old Onion article that just its title, because Onion.
Yeah.
It says no way to prevent this, says only nation where this regularly happens.
Yeah, I know.
And then it actually gives a bunch of like real data and stuff. Yeah, I mean it. I always like this article because I mean it's literally one paragraph,
Yeah.
but it says things. It's like yeah, there's on average 2 mass shootings every month,
Mhm.
and we've had half of all of the world's mass shootings in our one country.
Mhm.
It's like, yeah, you think there might be a problem?
And it kind of give you that sense where it could occur at any time. Like for example, my brother who is at USC right now, they had it was like a false report, but they had a report of an active shooter at USC,
Yeah.
and of
Mhm.
course the whole police and everything went on. But it just kind of shows you like it can happen at any moment. It was a fault. Like luckily it was a false alarm. It was funny enough with him. Like his dorm is by where the report was called in, and he was walking back to his dorm, and
Mhm.
he can see everybody. It was like the business place or whatever, like where they have like a program or whatever. So he sees a bunch of like people coming out and running towards him, and then the police are going towards it. Everyone put their phones away, like pretty much just get the fuck out of there. And so, but it was just like it's crazy to know that that can happen at any freaking moment, anywhere, at any time. And it's so easy for these people to get these types of weapons. Um, so it's pretty crazy. Yeah, I was gonna say something, but that's kind of I can. And then so when it comes to that's the only reason why people the Second Amendment's important is because of that revolting against the government. But it doesn't help to revolt against the government if we're killing ourselves before we even get to that point.
Yeah. I still think that's one of the weakest arguments where it's like, yeah, we need it in case we need to kill the government. I mean, that's not going to happen. If you have a bunch of guns, it doesn't matter.
Hmm.
The government has like, I mean, just factors of more money than you. It's insane.
And then
I mean, if we were a smaller country, or let's say we were a second world country,
yeah,
that's when that makes sense. Where it's like, yeah, our government might flip at any time,
yeah,
and they're not that well funded. We're basically gonna have the same weapons that they are. But no, I mean, we're one of them. Like, we're a really stable
hmm,
country. We're not easy to overthrow
hmm,
internally.
hmm.
And if we needed to, we would probably lose. We would need another country to lend their military to us. In fact, we would need like probably all of Europe and then maybe China to lend their military to us in order to overthrow our own government.
And then there's a thing for self-defense. Um, I guess which kind of does make sense. Um, I'm
Well, then
not.
why do we need rifles?
Yeah, no. This is the thing though, but like, I mean, how much self-defense do you need? I mean, do you need like a freaking AR-15 that's fully automatic to protect your home, or like a pistol will do, or something like that, or something that's like a shotgun, or I don't know, something that's gonna like actively protect your home? Do you need like a 50 cal? Do you need like an AR-15 with like armor-piercing bullets? Is that necessary?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can see. I mean, it'd be different if we lived like the Wild Wild West, like where we need those weapons and all this stuff. But it's just like, no, I don't think you do. It's like you're not, you don't. I don't really think you need that to be fair. But yeah, that's kind of my stance on it. And before this occurred, I was still on the fence with it, kind of like, I kind of see the Second Amendment thing and like the reason for it, and I guess that could happen. But it's kind of like this is the kind of straw that broke the camel's back for myself, where it's
Ah,
just like it's silly, it's absolutely ridiculous.
yeah. Yeah, and I mean, that's the real question is how much do we, like, how much do we ban? Do we go full England and ban all handguns and everything?
Hmm.
I think the term assault rifle, assault weapon is really stupid and vague.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, yeah, like, the thing we've already we've like sort of de facto banned is full automatic rifles,
Yeah.
where you're not allowed to sell them and you're not allowed to make them.
Hmm.
So you have to find one that's already like that was made legally years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
But I mean, we need to go a lot further than that because there's so many things that it's like, well, it's not a full auto. It's only 98% the speed of a full auto, so it's not a full auto.
And then here's the other argument people have said is basically if you look at just gun violence in the United States, most of the gun violence in the United States is done by handguns,
Hmm.
especially in the inner cities and other places of that nature. And so a lot of people have looked and said like, okay, you guys, we only focus on these mass shootings,
Hmm.
but they occur a lot regular than what we think they are. And then they're saying, if you really want to solve the problem, then you would have to ban all weapons altogether. And then they would say, well, then their argument would continue to be saying, well, then now you have broken the Second Amendment to the right to own arms if you ban all types of firearms. And
Hmm.
it's kind of an interesting thing. But then again, a lot of criminals get their guns illegally. To be fair, they don't buy them legally.
Yeah, but I mean, when the supply is so large,
Yeah,
it's and every person who's like a strong gun owner,
yeah,
who let's say everyone who's a responsible gun owner is like, well, every gun owner keeps it in their safe. Well, no, they don't. That's how so many of them get stolen on a regular basis,
mhm,
and then they get put into the streets.
mhm,
It's pretty easy to smuggle a gun from one state to another state. That's
yes,
why state gun laws don't do shit.
yeah,
You won't find a fully auto gun very many places anymore compared to 20, 30 years ago. But in a state where handguns are banned, I mean, it's a 1 hour, 2 hour drive, and hey, now it's legal.
yeah,
And they're not checking. We don't have patrols or checkpoints at state borders, or at least not very many.
mhm,
Anyway, yeah, I think it. Yeah, if we're gonna do anything, it needs to be a national policy, but we also need to figure out how much do we actually need to do, and people need to stop being so damn like stubborn about, oh, it's cultural to hold the gun, and then I want to go shoot aminals and stuff.
mhm.
I need this full auto sniper rifle. It doesn't make any sense. I don't give a fuck.
I'd say for now we do our best to try to ban these assault weapons. We stop having these things where we have 50 to 60 people killed or injured. That's kind of ridiculous. We kind of try to stem that tide, and then we can kind of move on to see how we can make the rest of the place better. And I think
Yeah.
when it comes to like, you know how most crimes happen with handguns, like at the stat I just gave you.
Hmm.
I think a lot of that has to do with the areas that those events occur, in terms of like I think there's other factors when it comes to that.
Hmm.
You have like poverty, you have like social like issues in that degree, and those kind of what's it called? Those are problems that can be solved, you know, without banning the handgun. I don't think. And this is not like, oh, it's gonna be like a perfect world, like it's a utopia where we don't ever have violence. Like that's just silly. But if we can just lessen the amount of times that those occur, that's better than just letting them happen again and again. And it was almost like saying like, oh, like what's the point of like fixing it if it's just gonna happen again, or is gonna happen? Like it's almost if it kind of feels like that argument. Well, it's like, oh, it's not the gun's fault, it's the people's fault. So like, why are we gonna change it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's just like, well, bruh, people people have access to these things, and so yeah, the guns are the problem for now. We can't trust people having these guns. It's almost like then we should take it away from these people or anybody for that matter. So that's just my entire thing. It was just like, really, we have to talk about this again. Like, why do we have to talk about it? Maybe if we try to fix it, maybe we won't have to talk about it, and it won't be such a diverse issue. And once you
Yeah,
stop
and
having
that's
these things, just like, yeah. So, and then what happens is that it'll happen again. Oh my God, these gun laws aren't working. Well, it's better than having nothing. So I don't know. That's just my thing. It's just kind of like, really.
yeah. I think it's a big, complicated, annoying issue.
But yeah, our final, our kind of like, well, for my final stance, basically, let's try to do something national. Let's try to ban these assault rifles. Let's see where that goes, and if hopefully that makes a dent into this problem that's only occurring in the United States and nowhere else in the world, which probably should tell everyone, hey, there's something unique about what's going on in our country, and it's probably having to do with the gun laws, which are also very unique at the rest of the world, save for maybe like Afghanistan or some other world war torn area in the world that we live in.
Yeah, and yeah, I guess I basically agree. It's just, let's let's actually do something about it instead of pandering and listening to the NRA all the fucking time.
And then speaking of democracy and trying to fight back against that, we have kind of see what's going on in Catalonia. So basically, we spoke about this last week. If you guys don't know, if you live under a rock, hopefully you don't, because you'd be dead. Um, so Catalonia, which again is one of the richest provinces in Spain, they were going to try to break away from Spain, and Catalonia, which again is in northwestern part of Spain, they have their own language, their own cultural heritage and history, and basically they felt that their taxes were not going back to their country and that Madrid or the capital was taking it all for themselves and for the other rest of the provinces. Excuse me. So basically, they had tried to do a referendum. I think it was on Sunday. Yeah, Sunday. And let's just say it did not go very well for a lot of people. A lot of police came down and cracked down like I thought they would. They would start to take pallet boxes or ballot boxes from the people, and at some places
Ballot
where they,
boxes, yeah.
yeah, at some places, it even got to the point where this was before the day before, but like not the day before, like on Friday, because at a lot of schools that's where they're gonna vote. So what happened is that a lot of the kids and the parents after the school day was over, they actually brought sleeping bags and slept at the school to kind of sit in and make sure that the vote was going to continue going at those schools. That's kind of like how far they went. I would say, Mom, that sounds stupid. I'm gonna go home and play video games. Screw independence. Sorry, I'm a bad person. I'm a
That's okay.
bad democracy person. I just want to go play EU4 or something like that and make a podcast about it. No, but no. So seriously, so Sunday came around and the police were doing all those things, and it got to the point where like there was some videos I was watching on BBC of like I don't know where it was, but it was in some type of stairwell, and they were actually like throwing people down the stairs and like grabbing people by the hair, pulling them out of the building. There was some points of some of the city where they were actually beating people with batons and like taking them away, and a lot of very grotesque pictures. And I think the one that stood out for me, since I'm a soccer fan, was the Camp Nou, which holds over 100,000 people and it's usually filled to capacity when Barcelona's playing their games. Some of the best players like Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez, all these world class players that everyone around the world knows. They played one of their league matches on Sunday, and they played to a completely empty stadium. And I watched a little bit of the game, and you can hear all the players talking, which was, I guess, cool for a soccer fan, but just also like wow, I can't believe that happened. And so the story now is basically the votes came back, and supposedly I think it was like 80% of the people voted for independence. But I
Hmm.
think those results, and a lot of people have said you should take those things with a pinch of salt, because not everyone voted, and the vote and pretty much like the people who voted, it's kind of hard to judge the real results of it because a lot of the voting was disrupted. And so now
Yeah.
the Catalonian PM is basically saying, well, we're gonna pretty much issue independence within a couple of days, like. And so the Spanish government is like, oh hell no, you're not. Um, So I know what's happened now. They got. I don't know what the Spanish government's gonna do right now. Everyone's kind of unclear. But one of the things steps they have taken is that they had just brought the head of the Catalonian police department, or
Mhm.
I don't know if it was one of the cities or like their regional head or whatever. They had brought some to the court or the high court to pretty much like for treason or for
Mm.
rebellion, trying to start a rebellion pretty much in the area. And I think the Spanish king has basically said, well, this is such a terrible day for everyone, especially the Catalonians who are basically like, I forgot the words he used, but basically like they're making the wrong mistake for doing this, and they're kind of turning their back on the rest of Spain, something to that nature. And
Mhm.
A lot of Catalonians had felt that the king had turned against them, and they wasn't really supporting what they really wanted. So it's kind of like a no man's land for that. And then in current the EU has it basically this is like an internal manner for Spain that they should deal with. Um, I doubt anything's gonna happen from it. Um, I can't see them kind of going against the government unless the government gives in, and it doesn't seem like to me that they're gonna give in to their demands.
No.
Especially when you have the police kind of go to that degree. And I'm trying to think like in recent memory, when has it ever worked?
What you mean, like
Like
declaring independence,
declaring like
or?
I mean like not to, I mean declaring independence in the way that Catalonia has done it and kind of gotten away with it, especially when you don't want the central government to kind of like, you know. And in my recent memory, I don't really I don't see it happening.
Yeah, I don't know. So first of all, it's crazy the way that Spain like went about it.
Yeah, yeah.
um, I mean, because I think a few independent type votes have happened recently
Mhm.
in other countries,
Mhm.
and what they usually do is just kind of ignore it. They just
Yeah.
say it's not legitimate, and then after the vote goes through, they say, well, either it fails and they say, oh well, it doesn't matter anyway,
Mhm.
or it succeeds and they say, yep, still doesn't matter,
Yeah.
and they make it like really impossible for for them to do it. Instead of, hey, we're going to attack everyone. Um, and I mean, because they attacked people, there are articles of it's like, hey, now a lot more people want independence.
Yeah.
Because people are thinking, well, why would I want independence? Our country treats us fine,
Mhm.
and then that happens, and it goes, well, shit, maybe we do need independence.
And I think the thing that comes to recent memory is probably Ireland, but they had like a legit revolt that got squashed,
Hmm.
but then they got independence later. I know you have the in Northern Ireland, you had the was it the Risings? I forget the word that they had, but basically it happened in the 70s. There's a movie called 71, I
Hmm.
think it's called. It's a good movie. You should definitely check it out. For them, it was basically like you had the Protestants and you had the Catholics, and they
Hmm.
were kind of going at each other. Like the Catholics wanted them to join Ireland, the Protestants wanted to stay with the United Kingdom, and so the military is brought in to kind of bring in peace. But essentially, you had like a lot of IRA terrorist bombings um, in Northern Ireland, and it got really shitty for those sides of people. And even those things are still going on. So I think in recent memory, that's the only time I can see. Okay, that's when a nation broke away. But they didn't vote. They freaking fought a war like every other country who's tried to break it away and all that stuff.
Hmm.
So unless Spain is willing to stand down based on like outside political pressure or like internally they feel like they've kind of lost control of the situation and they can't do anything with it. Unless that happens and it doesn't seem like it, it seems like they're taking a very hard stance. I don't see it happening at all.
Yeah, no, I don't see it happening either, at least not peacefully. And that's the real question is, okay, first of all, I mean, obviously the vote was not legitimate. Oh, that's the other thing. Because they suppressed all the voters, the only people who were willing to go out and get beaten up were the people who really wanted independence.
Mhm.
So even though polling was like, oh yeah, it's about 50-50, ended up with an 80% vote
Mhm.
for yes. Is anyway, yeah, no, I don't really see it happening just either. And if they do declare independence, I have no clue how
How
the
they're
king
gonna?
is going to react.
Yeah. But yeah, that was pretty crazy. I mean, I kind of like predicted it that I was gonna go that way. I think a lot of people did. And I would be very surprised if it does go through. Very, very surprised. I would actually want to see how they would be able to do it. Like, how would you go from that to independence? It boggles my mind. It's something interesting to see, and especially like in the course of like European history, like to see how it works. Because now you have
Hmm.
like these little nation states that were once strong and powerful, and now starting to create their own little mini states. And it might even if it might
Yeah.
and if it works, it might continue in other places. Um, like good examples, like I think when people think of like France, when we think of Spain, we think all Spanish or like the same or whatever. But you find out there's like Catalonia, then you have the Basque or whatever. In France, for example, they're like also in that same kind of boat. Like in the north, you have the Bretons. It sounds like I don't know, it sounds something mystical or something like that. But no, but they're like in Normandy or whatever, and they also have their own little language and all everything like that. Um, and they even like they're like like they're super Catholic, like uber Catholic. Um,
Hmm.
and they definitely didn't, especially since we talked about the Vendée, for example, in the a lot of the people who are in the Vendée who are actually going against the Republic were actually Bretons or from Bretons. I don't know what they're, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
So and even like in the Vendée, it's very notorious for like what the Republicans did, the French, they pretty much went in there and pretty much just slaughtered everyone because it's guerrilla warfare pretty much.
Hmm.
So anyone who was thought of uh, helping out the insurgency, they pretty much wiped them out. And I was talking to a professor who I'm working with for my research, and I asked him if they were still pissed off at the like, at the French for doing that, and he
Uh
said
huh.
like, yeah, those scars don't heal very easily. So I don't know. It'd be interesting. I wonder if any other like nationalist movement will try to find their own type of independence um, in that way as well. So yeah, that was something that happened over the weekend. And then surprisingly, what's still going on is the devastation or the result of the devastation that occurred in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
You still have a lot of people who are out of power, who do not have food. Not, well, I mean, well, water, and I bet you food as well.
Aren't they almost 100% out of power, or did it get better?
I think it's like 9% have power in cellular service.
Huh.
But yeah, the numbers. I mean, they're not looking good. And to make it worse, it's not surprising that Donald Trump has decided to make it worse. So there's two things that occurred. Actually, it says oh, no, speaking of number, it's 7% of the island has power.
Okay, I'm looking at
And
something that says 95 still without, but
so
okay, let's say
yeah,
it's somewhere between 5 and 10.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. So I believe it was yesterday. Trump had actually gone to Puerto Rico, and he was speaking to the governor and a bunch of other officials from Puerto Rico. And one of the things that was the most stupidest things I've ever heard was basically Trump basically said that what was the word he used? It was basically like the hurricane that hit Puerto Rico was not as tragic as what had happened in Hurricane Katrina.
Yeah, something.
That's pretty much what he said, or catastrophe. I think it was a catastrophe. The word he used, not tragic, but catastrophe. But essentially, like that's pretty much what he said. And basically, he was all like, he had asked the governor how many people had died, and he had said like 35, I think. But I think that number jumped up to like the 58 or 50
Hmm.
something, I believe. It jumped up though, a significant amount. Um, and basically said, yeah, like, and Trump's like, yeah, like about 1,000 people died in Hurricane Katrina. I'm just like, uh, put your head, put your head to your hands and just like shake your head, like, oh my
Yeah,
God, what an
it's
idiot. And I think today, right now, I'm looking on the BBC, but I think he threw toilet paper
oh
at
the paper towels. I think it was paper towels.
oh, paper towels, yeah. He threw paper
Yeah.
towels at the crowd.
Yeah, he was like throwing them like a basketball. Oh my God, it looked really stupid. Everyone looked kind of uncomfortable. There were
Um,
like there were like two or three people in the audience who looked really excited and pumped up about it, and everyone else just looked kind of awkward and disappointed.
like, bruh, seriously. So yeah, I think I remember my rant from the other day when I talked about how the news doesn't want to report on how these. how the cleanup occurs in these areas, how people are still affected by it.
Yeah.
I'm happy that the mainstream news media is covering this, and how we don't actually think about the people who are actually affected by these horrific events that occur,
Hmm.
and and also brings to light a lot of the poverty-stricken issues of Puerto Rico. I don't really have demographics of the country, but what I can see, and especially how people are dealing with it, it's not the richest province in the United States.
No, they're pretty poor.
Yeah, and also the government was also in debt, which kind of gives even more of a mess indicator of that as well. I'm trying to see
Hmm.
I'm trying to get numbers for it.
It says their
Uh,
unemployment's at 11.5 percent.
okay, that's is that
Uh,
compared to the mainstream United States? What is that?
isn't U.S. right now at like, wait, isn't it at like 4? Yeah, 4.5%.
S-
So they have 7% higher.
Average than the
Yeah, in fact,
average.
almost 3 times as much unemployment.
Yeah. Even though 11% is not a lot, it's a lot. And speaking when you have 4 to 6, like I think it's 4 to 6% is full employment, I believe, which is like where you
Yeah.
want your economy to be. If you're at 11%, you need some work. Um, Especially with almost all the buildings damaged, you can definitely tell that a lot of the buildings were not hurricane proof,
Hmm.
which definitely shows it as well. It's very similar to the one we were talking about the Mexico, how people are just trying to build their homes and try and get from day to day, and um, thinking about the world. You think about like the most hardest hitting hurricane that has hit the area is not like
Uh-huh.
on their minds. So we can definitely see that it was definitely a poverty-stricken area. And me and my father were talking about this, and like, why is this still going on? Why are we still going through this problem? And one of the things that we were talking about the military for some reason, and I was like, well, we have like the world's strongest military, and we should be able to deal with this. We have like pretty much all the best technology, all these different things, but we can't help our own country out. Um,
Well, frankly, I'm not sure if Trump realized that it was our own country.
exactly, and it was funny because in this, I read somewhere like there's a poll that the BBC did or someone did. I think they said like only 48% of the people knew that Puerto Rico was a part of the United States.
That's about the same percent as people that know that the Earth goes around the sun. So, I mean, I guess we're doing okay.
I guess they're doing okay. Um, but no, and then also you have, well, I was talking to him because he was part of the Navy, and he had done a bunch of these humanitarian missions, like in the
Mhm.
Philippines and in Guam. And
Yeah.
supposedly he was saying that what their job to do is to send out the aid or do
Mhm.
rescues, but not
Yeah.
to ship the aid to anywhere else. I'm not sure about that. I would have to look that up. Because when you forget things. But I bet you a lot of that is true, though. I wouldn't be surprised if the U.S. military doesn't do all the shipping. But I see when it comes to that point, you would have to put a lot more effort, especially when it's your own country and your own citizens.
Well, I mean, actually, I was reading an article earlier today saying that a lot of the aid that's going to Puerto Rico actually isn't getting to the Puerto Ricans.
Exactly, and a part of that is also because supposedly the people who are supposed to ship the aid to their people, or like the local community,
Hmm.
bus drivers, and that's one of the reasons why they can't. And I don't know if this was official or not, but I believe the reason why that's because they're trying to take care of their families. Like their entire homes are devastated probably, and they need to like be there with their families to kind of get them through it. Things like that. It's kind of hard to go from that to driving a bus, even though it would be helpful. But
Yeah, I
this
mean,
is
the other thing is also like infrastructure. They don't have as good as roads as we do. The roads aren't as good as ours
yeah.
in the mainland, and consequently, I mean, even when they do have something like a truck, it's difficult to drive it to the more rural areas. That's mainly what I mean. I mean, their cities are fine, but when you have to go out to the country, it gets really difficult.
Is that
And
your
in the
strike?
article I was
Yeah.
reading,
Okay, go.
there's even something about the mayor. One of the mayor was just like, yeah, there was a shipment that got here, and they didn't tell us that it got here, so no one was there to pick it up. and we're not sure where it went. We're still looking for it.
So yeah, I mean, there's definitely like a lot of problems with it. So it'll be, I don't know. It's just one of those weird things where it's just I think we can definitely do more. But I don't know. It's such a weird issue, and I think kind of like the government's response to it hasn't been helpful at all. And Trump, as the face of it, doesn't really doesn't help the situation at all. It kind of shows like, well, are we really doing much more? But interestingly enough, even though Trump is an idiot, as we all know,
Hmm.
in the article I was reading, the mayor, who's kind of been very outspoken about the government's response, supposedly she had talked to the White House staff, and supposedly she says that like they actually know what they're doing. The staff does, not the president. And so supposedly they're trying to get things done. But I think I don't know. I think everything will end up good, but it's definitely going to take some time. And hopefully, no one on the government side is actually trying to make things worse, or we're not
Hmm.
doing enough because we think it's Puerto Rico and we don't really care about them. But I think definitely that's something that's really interesting. That's been kind of been going on. Um, so yeah, that's kind of the big news stories that are kind of going on right now. I'm trying to think of anything more. Actually, one interesting thing was North Korea that had happened, and there was a news article right now that kind of talked about it a little bit. It was kind of associated with it, but recently in the week, Rex Tillerson has gotten the opportunity. He said he was in contact with North Korean officials trying to get a peace settlement to go through, and then somebody, I won't name names, but we all know who it is. I'm just kidding. It was Trump. Um, messes it all up pretty much by saying like Rex Tillerson, you were kind of wasting your time. Like you just need to save your energy. There's no reason talking to the North Koreans, and I'm just like, wow, like really, really.
Yeah.
But on that note, Tillerson had come back to. He actually had a press conference for himself, basically saying like, well, yeah, my job's not in jeopardy. Everything's okay. And I guess that's kind of something that's unique for a Secretary of State basically saying, yeah, my job's secure.
Yeah.
It's just like really. That's still kind of bubbling, but that kind of little new wrinkle. Hopefully, hopefully the talks continue. Hopefully they can make things go smoother, and hopefully I don't have to sign up for the military and go and fight for my country, which I would do, but I won't do because some idiot decided the peace was not a better solution.
That's okay. Just say that you have
What's it called?
what what was it? I forget what it's called. It's
Is it
fake. I
called?
can't remember.
Oh, is it called? You can't kill people. It's called a conscientious objector.
No, 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 no. I'm
Oh,
talking about
schizophrenia.
dang it, what is it? You keep talking. I'll find it. I'll find it.
Okay. But yeah, so hopefully that kind of gets better. I think it will. I think Trump just likes to talk but doesn't like to do anything. I think that's all he does. Um, yeah, I don't know. That's kind of all I have on
Bone
that note.
spurs. I found it. Oh yeah. Just say you have bone spurs and you're good.
What is that?
It's the fake thing that Trump said that he had, so that he
Oh,
didn't have to go into the military.
oh. I thought it was called money, but whatever. We'll just get past that.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, that was kind of an interesting little thing going on there. But yeah, I'm trying to see what else had occurred in the world. Um, yeah. Mm. Yeah,
Oh, we didn't talk about the millennial thing.
yeah, we can kind of get to that. Trying to think. Oh, okay, yeah, that's pretty much it. Nothing much. That's it. So yeah, so I guess one of the things we kind of found. This is kind of a not a big news article or news like stories going on, but it's something that we've kind of skipped around the podcast. It was basically like this idea that like millennials and like the past generations are living very different lives, and like I forget what the tone of the argument was. I know we talked a lot about how like in terms of college, how like the hard work has kind of like people have to work hard, but like the way in which that work has occurred has differed among the generations. So I was kind of going up on BBC, which is one of the news places I like to find my news.
Hmm.
And one of the articles kind of talked about like the real story of what's going on with millennials, like our generation, for example. And what they basically said, and well, the news article kind of like it revolved around basically like a lot of people complain about millennials how they're lazy and how they're entitled and those types of things. Um, but what they found, and I'll put this article on the YouTube description and also on the iTunes description and SoundCloud description. But what they found when they actually studied millennials, a lot of those kinds of misconceptions are wrong. Supposedly, they actually worked a lot harder than their probably the most other uh, former generations. The things that stood out to me actually was that actually millennials make less money than their past generations, which I found extremely interesting.
Oh, I already knew about that.
I didn't know about. I actually didn't know that.
Yeah,
Uh,
college is more expensive, housing is more expensive, and we earn less.
hmm
It's a thing.
Let's see what else. What were some of the things that kind of stood out from you from this article, Ben? That kind of like jumped
Honestly, I
at.
like the other one that where they just had a bunch of random quotes from
Yeah,
throughout
yeah,
history.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That one was just entertaining.
yeah.
I mean, so it's things like we have less wealth. I mean, it's like everything. It's I don't know. It's what I've always kind of thought. The baby boomer generation is the most entitled pieces of shit ever. Because not only did they get everything handed to them so cheaply, not free, but extraordinarily cheap, but then they turn around and go, you know what? Now we want to fuck everyone else over.
hmm
And we don't care who it affects because you know what? We deserve money. We deserve this. We deserve that.
hmm
And you know what? You guys don't. Why? Because fuck you. It's I don't know. It's anyway. So yes, things like baby boomers have more wealth than we ever have. They earned more money than we do now when they were the same age. Housing was cheaper, cars were cheaper, college was cheaper. We're going to college more often than they ever did, despite the expense, coming out with more student debt than they ever could have possibly imagined. Just the usual stuff.
hmm
And even things like a lot of times they're like, oh, millennials aren't moving out of their parents' house. It's like actually it's about the average.
Yeah.
Um, there's a lot more people like there's a lot more let's just say I don't know white people are basically not having as many children and there's a lot more of the type of family who have more children
hmm
mainly like Catholic Mexican even Mormon
Yeah.
still having a lot of children and those same people are also the cultures where children tend to stay at home longer just because it's a much more tight-knit family.
But I think if I'm correct,
Consequently
yeah.
it skews the data where it's like oh no there's more people staying at home it's like it's about the same there's just more of the type of culture that stays home longer.
hmm Um, so I like the end of the article is based. I'll read it out to everybody. So basically, millennials are the same as other generations were at their age, only a little different, more global, maybe more diverse, more progressive, definitely poorer, but a unique group of monsters, the entitled wrath of which the world has ever seen before. I'm not so sure, but I'll get back to you after I've taken a few more selfies. That was written by trying to get the name. This is who's the person who wrote this? By Amanda Bruggery from the BBC. But it was a really good article. Kind of broke everything down.
Yeah, had a lot of supporting evidence is the thing that I really liked most about it
Yeah.
because I've seen claims both ways a lot
hmm
and a lot of anecdotes to back it up on both sides. I've mainly seen anecdotes for against for or let's just say against baby boomers mainly,
hmm
and then she actually provided a lot of data.
hmm
um,
Interesting.
yeah,
Well, I guess this one is another interesting thing I found that this article found that U.S. millennials aren't actually living with their parents in record numbers. Interestingly, that peak happened in the 1940s. Really?
hmm
Wow. I'm definitely not helping that one. But no, I think that's really interesting. That's one of the reasons why I like about when you actually go and look at studies and actually look at the statistics, you find that it actually tells a lot more interesting story and a little bit more interesting story under that as well. But why do you think? I mean, from your perspective, why do you think that is the case? I mean, of course, college is way more expensive and all those things. Does
Yeah.
that does that is that the main factor of why it hinders our wealth? Do you
In
think?
regards to wealth, yeah, I mean, I think the biggest things are just it costs a lot more money to get into the same positions, namely getting a degree.
Hmm.
You need a degree now for what you needed barely a college education for 2 generations ago. And I mean, um,
Do you think that's because there's a lot more people who are getting high school degrees compared to past times, and now
yes,
we need?
that is the reason. It's more
Yeah,
people now are getting even college degrees than
yeah, yeah,
ever before.
yeah. So that I mean, and then you have to keep bringing up the competition essentially.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a self-perpetuating problem where it's like, okay, more people have degrees, therefore there's more people with degrees, therefore you need a degree to be competitive.
Hmm.
And then now there's more people with degrees, and it's this kind of loop. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that is the biggest. If we're just talking about why we have less, why millennials generally have less wealth, I think it's definitely that.
Because
It's
you start,
just
yeah,
everything's more expensive
yeah,
relatively.
and plus,
Obviously,
yeah,
just numerically, it's more expensive. But yeah, go ahead.
and plus, like definitely once you come out of college, you're already in debt, so you already have to find a way to pay that off while you don't have enough time to pay your a house for a car, or it's very, I'm not saying start a family, right? It's difficult to do those things when you have to pay a huge college debt to kind of get
Yeah,
out of it as well. Not like me,
yeah, yeah,
because
exactly. Higher debt.
yeah.
And then there's still this sort of pressure where it's like, well, the classical American dream. You need to have a house,
Hmm.
a wife. You need to have 2 kids. You need to have at least one car. You should probably have 2 cars though.
Hmm.
Your house really should be bigger. You need to have one room for each person. And oh,
Hmm.
it's like keeping up with the Joneses, but like by generation, where, but it's just not as possible anymore.
But the other article, oh, also done by the same author, she kind of looked at how like actually this idea of looking at the younger generation as being like the entitled ones or the ones who are lazy and all these things is actually something that's not unique to the millennials. Basically, the way she provides this article is that she provides like a collection of different articles or different quotes in history and
Hmm.
their time, and she basically puts out this is how other people have complained about like the younger generation, like 1771, 2016, like even the Roman 4th century BC, like the 1950s, like everyone's complained about the younger generations.
Hmm.
This
I think
yeah.
my favorite one, I'm gonna kind of translate it into a little bit more modern English, but it says, where's the manly vigor and athletic appearance of our generations past? Can these really be their children? Surely not. A race of effeminate, self-admiring, emaciated children can never have come from a direct line from heroes. And it's from 1771.
Mhm.
And the reason I like that one the most, I think, is because I've seen, so just like with any other popular trend, when people like to bag on millennials,
Mhm.
the millennials also started to join in. People just kind of follow the trends, but
Mhm.
I've seen people do that where they like show pictures of, oh God, I think they were showing like the Jonas Brothers and Justice Bieber. They're like, why are these the men of our generation? And then they show like, I don't know, famous movie stars from the 1940s where they're extraordinarily manly and just, they have the very square faces, the chiseled jaws. It's
Mhm.
like, well, you're showing, children compared to adults, not to mention, people just kind of look different sometimes.
Mhm.
um, people compare really uncomparable things.
But I would say that if we look at, let's just say, I'm just going to put this argument on top of its head essentially, and I think she does the same thing where she says that millennials are pretty much the same as what has occurred in other generations.
Hmm.
And I think when she says that millennials do have less help because they have to go to college, I would say that this is probably one of the best times to be like a millennial. And just hear me out on this one because like yes, we are making more wealth, but in terms of like the progressiveness that we have in terms of like the things in which we think and the things that we can do is a lot better. And if we look at like let's say like the great generation like who started in World War II, you know, they had to serve in the Second World War. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
If we were to look at maybe the 60s or 70s, you know, like political repression, the Vietnam War, all these very large things that they had to go through in their lives. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And if we look
You
at
you so you're saying it's the best time to be a young adult?
I would say so,
Okay.
and I think that's what article points. I mean, it's not every generation is gonna have it perfectly. There's always gonna be that negative thing. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
But I say what we have, you know, even though we have make less money, I think this is probably the best time, probably one of the best times to be a millennial because there's a lot
You
of
mean
good,
to be adult?
yeah, a young adult or yeah, because basically if you're a millennial, you're basically a young adult now or a little bit older than a young adult.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's probably one of the best times to kind of be a young adult in my sense. So that's kind of the way I kind of look at it. Yeah, we are making less wealth, but we don't have to go through these enormous
Yeah.
large things that these people
There
did.
there was this funny comedy skit. I think it was either I want to say it was The Daily Show when Jon Stewart was on it,
Mhm.
where it was like, people always harken back to the past, like, oh, I wish it could be like the 50s or the 60s or the 80s, any time.
Mhm.
There's always someone who's nostalgic about it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the thing you pointed out is like, yeah, you want to go back to that time because you were a child at that time.
Mhm.
You thought everything was amazing because you didn't know about anything at the time.
Yeah.
And so what he did is he like interviewed people from like really short. They were like 10-second interviews of people who were like actually adults at that time.
Yeah.
And it was like, do you want to go back to that time period? I think he started in the 50s. And they were like, hell no, there was this problem and this problem and this problem. How about the 40s? No, no, like kept going to older and older people.
Yeah.
And it's like if you go back to those times, I mean, think about where medicine was at that time.
Mhm.
If you go back far enough without any vaccines or anything, it's like, hey, because he went back, I think he went all the way back to 1910, and then, there's not really anyone who was, or no, I think he went back to 1920. Anyway, he went back to when polio was a big thing.
Mhm.
And the person was like, no, like half my friends died before they turned 10.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to go back that far. I
Yeah.
definitely agree. This is the best time to be alive. As far as how much time has gone by so far. I think the future might be a better time to be alive if it still like exists. Just because, technology, the more technology we have, the better things just are.
Yeah. That's until what's it called?
Singularity.
Terminator and like Skynet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All the crazy, paranoid, over-exaggerated sci-fi stuff. It's
Yeah.
fun to look at, but I think people have gotten too scared because of all those movies and things.
I don't trust technology.
I
Um,
know that's a problem.
but yeah, I think with all those things, I would say this. Even though we make less money, this is probably the best time to be alive because you don't have to go through all that shit. Not
Mm.
yet. Well, I think probably every generation has their own shit to go through, but
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know. I think the less money will probably be our worst concerns, which I can deal with.
I don't know. I mean, we have the Second Korean War kind of stirring, or I guess reignition of the ongoing Korean War.
Yes, read because it's currently a truce right now.
Technically, yeah. Technically.
But yeah, I think those are some of the biggest news stories. We might have missed a couple, but I think those are some of the biggest ones that we kind of saw, and we also included like a little conversation of kind of like something that we saw interesting, and like kind of
Yeah, some lighthearted talk.
some lighthearted talk, and also something we've kind of been talking about a little bit on the lower end for a couple of the podcasts. But yeah, those were one of the biggest things. So so Ben, how could you like describe your first foray into you've kind of already had a little bit of experience into university life, but like how could you differences and from what you've seen at community college to now, what would you say for that?
um, it's very busy. There's so many seminars and just class, like little one-off things
Mm.
that you can go to, and I've gone to a lot of them.
That's good.
So it's just been very busy more than anything else. I accidentally missed a class today.
What?
Um, yeah, it was on accident. I don't know. I call it a class. It's one of those. There's thing. It's like they call them connections.
Hmm.
I don't know if you remember what those are, or if you
Nope.
ever did them,
I don't
or
think
ever knew
I.
what they were.
Nope.
They're like, okay, they're meant for first years. They're for either freshmen or transfers,
Okay.
and they're quarter long classes. You can take them as a class, or you can just take them as a connection. They literally, that's just what they call them. So I mean, they're basically small classes that it's just meant to. I mean, they're very small. They max out at 25 people, like on purpose, and it's meant to just like kind of get you to know a few people and learn about something specific.
Oh, it's not like a
And it's a
unit
wide
class.
variety of. I don't. I guess I'd call them topics. Like the one I'm in is for graduate. Like you want to be a graduate student.
Oh yeah. Okay.
But there's ones about like how to organize your life and hey, do you want to
Hmm.
do nature and let's take pictures of everything.
I got you.
And even like the Aggie tradition thing where it's like let's try to get all 50 traditions.
Mm.
And I forgot that was immediately after my genetics class.
Mm.
So when I got out of my genetics class, I was just thinking like, oh God, I'm so tired. I'm gonna go wander over to the quad and just kind of lay down.
Yeah. 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 I got you.
And then when I was in the middle of my final class of the day, my physics class, I was
Mhm.
like, oh shit. Oh no, I forgot to go to that class. It's funny though. The reason I remembered actually, I didn't just remember. I got an email, and I got a notification on my phone. I looked at it, and it was like, "Oh, your grade for attendance, like that's just they just like make sure everyone shows up each day, was like done." And it said that I was there, and I'm like, "Oh, shit, I forgot to show up," but they thought I was there anyway. That's good.
So you actually get graded for that class? Like you get like A, B, or is
You,
it
you
no
can
pass?
you can sign up for it as a 1 unit class. I'm just taking it as a nothing.
Okay.
It's like you're just there.
Okay. I was gonna say,
Yeah.
like, if you're getting it for grades, I'm like, how'd you miss a class, like a legit, like 3 to 4 unit class or whatever? But it's like
No.
it's just like a thing you just want to do because it helps you out, which is cool.
Yeah. It's a 1 unit. If you take it as a class, and or you can just show up.
Hmm. Yeah. So that's cool. So you're liking the experience. You're liking the professors and how they do
Yeah, I'm
things.
liking it a lot. I was a little disappointed. There was a class I wanted to get into today. I got an email yesterday saying, "Hey, they desperately need people in this class." And I looked at the description. I went, "Oh my God, I really want to be in that class." So I showed up like really early this morning. The class starts at 9, and I showed up at like 8:30.
Ooh.
Um, uh, and I showed up, and they're like, "Oh, hey, you're like super early." I'm like, "Yeah, I am." They're like, "Okay, well, we had a huge influx of people register for the class." I
It's
went,
like,
"Oh, yeah, I tried to do that. It didn't work." They're like, "Yeah. So you can chill, but you might not get in." I went, "Oh, okay." And I did not get in. There were 12 other people there with me
damn.
who also did not get in.
Wow.
um, and then I looked, and there was a second section of the class. And so I showed up to that one. She's like, "Oh, it's much more likely that you'll get into this one because, like, just we're not over enrolled."
Yeah.
Um, and almost there was someone who showed up 12 minutes late,
Oh, that's bullshit. I
and I
hate
was
those
like,
people.
but they're already registered for the class, so I was
Oh,
like,
you
okay.
know what's funny enough? Like on that note, my first class, I keep telling everybody, my first class was Logic and Reason, and for that class we had a very very strict professor. Later
Hmm.
to find out he actually was a commander in the Navy.
Uh,
He was a pretty high rank, and so he was really really strict on these types of things. So I remember the first day of class, it was a full class, and let me guess, let me tell you, it did not stay like that. And I think I was like number one on the wait list. Yeah, number one on the wait list. And so like so everyone's in there and like this kid comes maybe like 6 minutes late and he was
mhm.
enrolled in the class.
Yeah.
And the professor's pretty much, oh sorry, I dropped you.
Dang.
Good for like all of us who are on the wait list. Sucks for that one kid.
Yeah, I mean, I figure the two ways you can either do it that
Yeah.
are the only two ways that are really fair
Yeah.
are either, yeah, this person's already registered. I'm not going to drop them just because they're late. Like, I'm sorry, but they got in first.
Mhm.
Or, hey, whoever shows up on time gets to be in the class.
Yeah.
um, I don't know. I feel like both of those are really equally fair.
Yeah.
Um,
There has to be some kind of cutoff, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, if you don't show up for if you don't show up for the entire first class, then yeah, no, drop you immediately. I mean, it doesn't matter. You're
Hmm.
not there.
Hmm.
But like show up like 5 minutes late. I mean, especially on the first day, people get lost a lot. I don't think it's a really good excuse because there's,
Yeah.
maps and cell phones and GPS, and
Yeah.
you probably should be able to find your class. And if
Yeah.
you can't find classes, you should probably show up early.
Yeah. Exactly. That's what I do all the time.
I'd say I always try to show up like at least 20 minutes early. On the first day, I'm almost always 30 minutes or more early,
Yeah.
just in case. I mean, heck, that happened to me actually this quarter where I showed up for a class and I went, oh shit, this is the wrong building. Oh, it's the physical science building, not the physics building. That makes sense. God damn it, you need to go to the other building. I mean, they're pretty close to each other, but they have such similar names.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
some of the buildings are abbreviated in such bad ways that, oh my god, some of the classes I literally couldn't figure out what building they were in. It's just like, oh yeah, it's at WLN. I'm like, what?
What the hell's that?
I just type in UC Davis WLN and nothing comes up. I'm like, well, how do I find it?
Is that
Eventually,
Wellman?
I figured out it meant Wellman,
Yeah.
but I didn't know the build. I don't know the building. I didn't know the building names yet, so
Yeah.
I didn't know what to look for.
So yeah, you're liking it. You're liking the new
Yeah, I'm
experience.
liking it.
That's cool.
I think the classes are going to be okay.
Yeah. For myself, I'm kind of getting into. Well, this will be the first week that I actively do legit research.
Yeah.
Before I was kind of like looking for just sources or just for people that would be interesting for my topic, since it's about in my video. But it's funny enough, I go into my professor and he had me like read about like two books. Like, it was about maybe 200 pages each book, and they're pretty easy reads. And so I go in there. We just kind of talk about the readings and kind of like if I had any questions about it. Kind of like to get like a larger sense of the time period and kind of like where Napoleon is coming from as well. And so we go in there, we talk about it, and then we stayed way into the research. And then pretty much he pretty much said like he'd been giving like these little like projects or whatever like to do these before I actually started research. But he said like this week he's like, okay, I guess we're. He said, well, now I want you to start writing or basically start doing your thing. Essentially, I'm like kind of like, okay, like now I'm gonna do the thing that I've been planning to do for the entire time.
Hmm.
And it's funny enough because like looking for all like the sources and everything, like that was a challenge. Like seriously, it was because like they don't have a lot of things online, and the things that they like I was looking for like concrete like primary sources like correspondences or like diary entries essentially. But for a lot of people I'm looking at, they don't really have that, or if they do have it, but they haven't digitized it yet. And so it's
Hmm.
kind of hard. But what I did find a lot of was basically like the author, the guy I was looking for, like he wrote like a piece on like the history of like the Peninsular War, like on the Constitution of 1812. So like those types of works. And I asked my professor, would that be something good? He said, yeah, just that would be good for you to look at because you can kind of close read and actually see if they're telling the truth or things of that nature. So that was a really big challenge, but it was just kind of one of these like it kind of dawned on me like I'm getting into it now. Like
Hmm.
it's almost like this is what I asked for.
Yeah.
um, but no, it's kind of listening. Okay, now so what he's kind of helped me do is okay, let's create like a little outline of how you want to do things. Kind of like the basically we're gonna try to set a schedule for the next 2 years. And I don't know, like I'm not. I've kind of told you this, and you kind of definitely tell from the way I do things. Like I'm definitely not like a big planner. I just kind of like
Yeah.
I just kind of like just I know I have to get this done. I'm just gonna get it done essentially. You know what I'm saying? And
Mm.
try to put as much work in so I can get it done early. So I'm not trying to kill myself at the end. That's kind of the way I work in a sense. But if I need it, like I'll get it done. You know what I'm saying? No matter how long it takes,
Yeah.
I'm gonna get it done. So it'd be kind of interesting to see how I plan this out, especially trying to plan out 2 years. Well, not 2 years. Sorry, that's like 2 quarters. Trying to plan out 2 quarters and like I have to, for this week I have to get this done. For the week 3 I have to get that done. So it'll be really interesting to see how I do that. I'm kind of confused like how I even like what's realistic for me to get something done.
Hmm.
That's the only thing I really don't really know. Like what's the realistic thing for me to get done like on week 3 or week 4. So
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm gonna sell that, but I think I'll just kind of wing it and I can just kind of go over and talk to him about it. And that's what he's there to do. He's there to help me or those types of things. So it'll be kind of interesting on that. How do you kind of set your schedule up? Like how do you know how much time it realistically takes you to do something?
I overestimate everything
Okay.
slightly.
Okay.
Like purposefully. I think I'm decent. I'm generally good at estimating things.
Yeah.
Um, a few times last semester, I was very bad at estimating things.
Yeah.
And that was a very bad thing because that was a really intense semester.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's just, I mean, when if it's, you kind of have to base it on similar things that you've done in the past, obviously.
Yeah.
So for me, the thing that I poorly estimated was I had to do a chemistry lab report. I was
Mhm.
like, oh, okay, they usually take about this long, and it did not take that long. It took about 4 times as long,
Yeah.
um, and that was a problem. Yeah, I just generally try to overestimate everything. Like even right now, my schedule, I have that it takes me an hour and a half to drive home.
Yeah.
It does not take an hour and a half to drive home. It takes 40 minutes tops.
Yeah.
But if traffic happens to be really bad that day,
Mhm.
or if I have to leave late,
Yeah.
then then I have that in my schedule. I have a nice little cushion of space in that schedule.
Mhm.
For giant timelines like that, I don't know. I don't try to really estimate things, I guess.
Yeah,
I more just try to prioritize things.
I think what I'm gonna try to do, I will talk about this, but I think like I'm thinking by this second quarter or the end of the quarter, like probably like week 8, I'm probably gonna start writing.
Okay.
I don't know, or week 9 I'll probably start writing, and I'll just write into winter quarter because I'll have time.
Okay.
So that's kind of what I'm thinking right now. And I'm probably just like I have like core people that I know are important to each side of the conflict. I'll probably just
Mhm.
focus on those people as like people that I really want to focus on. And if I can't really find much, I'll try to kind of like what's it called, trickle down to the other people as well. That's kind of what I'm thinking
Yeah.
right now. So I'm gonna have to create a little outline. I'm gonna send you right now just kind of see like what specific objectives is want
Mm.
me to meet for that thing. So no, that'll be good. But yeah, we're getting into that research thing, and I'm kind of excited and terror at the same time.
Mhm.
Because it's a lot more stuff. It's about like 30 pages, 30 40 pages. And I'm dealing with pretty much directly primary sources. And so it's
Cool.
basically like a lot of close reading, but it's gonna be interesting to see how it goes, and hopefully it's a good experience to know to kind of get that in, especially when
Mhm.
the stakes are not high. You're not paying like a hell high tuition for a graduate school.
Yeah.
So no, it
Hmm.
should be interesting. That was kind of my week. So um, yeah, that's kind of all I got. Just I've been waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning every single day and
Same.
getting to school, and it feels good. I've been getting good sleep too, which helps. I pretty much work the entire day, and then I just crash like around 9 or 10. So
Oh man.
yeah,
Yeah, I keep not getting consistent sleep, and I think that's what's hurting me right now. I'm just like, I need.
like
I
for
just want
me,
to like sleep for a whole day.
like I prioritize. I've been kind of coming to a thing where I have to prioritize what I want. And
Yeah.
before, like what I would do is like I would not prioritize sleep. I just prioritize like just my fun time. And so like I
Uh,
would watch YouTube for like an hour before I actually went to sleep. And so what I've been doing now is just like, well, I need my sleep. I'm gonna prioritize my sleep over like playing a game or watching a Netflix or anything like that.
yeah, that's
I
a good
just
idea.
and plus like the way I work too is like I pretty much just work myself to death. Not work myself to death. I work myself to sleep. And so like
Yeah.
about 9 or 10, like I'm already just done with like just the day and just I want to fall asleep and get ready for the next day. And then I feel like that just it's funny because like in your head you're thinking like, oh, I feel like doing Netflix or doing something like that will be beneficial to me because like I guess like this like fun aspect of my mind's like, okay, like I had a little bit of fun today. But in the end, I feel like having the sleep and having the energy is way better
It is.
because like you're already gonna go through that rigmarole the next day, but you're gonna be in a much shittier mood physically because you don't have the sleep to kind of keep up, and the day's gonna be shittier. But I feel like once you
Yeah.
have that sleep, you might not get the Netflix time or the YouTube time, even though there's always time for that in other time slots. but you're always gonna have that. You're gonna feel a lot better about the day, and I feel like
Yeah.
getting my
And
sleep.
I think if you do that too, if you like, oh, I'm just gonna stay up an extra hour to watch whatever, and then you don't get good sleep, then the next day you're so tired, you're like, I'm just gonna watch another thing. I can't think right now. It's fine. I'll just watch a thing.
And you just feel happier. I mean, I've been feeling a lot better, even though it's not midterms is gonna screw that entire thing up. But I think it's just like I think it's better because like when you're in class or whatever, you're more awake, you're more paying attention. So when you eventually get to the midterms or whatever, it's still gonna be like difficult, but I think it'll be better because you've kind of gained the knowledge because you're awake during that time. And if you get all the readings, all that stuff, and when you're in I feel like when you're doing the readings as well, like you need to be awake for those because that's when you're gonna get a lot of the stuff you need to do. I mean, readings or math homework, whatever you're doing. But I feel like that also helps in that regard too, and also like it just reading a lot just puts you to sleep, so it's like it works perfectly. Like you don't need to watch Netflix or anything like that. So yeah, that's kind of the thing I've kind of been finding out. Something I'm trying, and hopefully we'll see how much sleep I get now. But I think this I'm gonna try to keep this up as much as I can, and then work out at night. So hopefully that's something I'm gonna continue. Ben, got anything else?
Nah, I'm good.
Yeah, so that's it from us, guys. A little bit of a shorter podcast since it's a weekday and we have to go to bed. But hopefully you guys enjoy this podcast. It'll come out probably on Thursday or tomorrow or Friday. I think most possibly Friday. But yeah, so thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.